Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the National Pharma Congress End-of-Summer Webinar on the future of AI in healthcare. I'm Mitch Shannon of Chronicle Companies. What we have for you this morning is a continuation of a discussion we began earlier this year at an NPC webinar that featured three external experts. Today, we're very fortunate to have three Canadian pharma industry insiders, each with a unique point of view on what AI means and what AI implies. According to the Oxford Dictionary, what it means is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. So far, so good. But what it implies goes well beyond that. What it really comes down to is anything and everything, right up to and including the obsolescence of our job skills. So to frame that part of that discussion, we have a short video to offer you from our training department. It's a workplace case study called Current Practical Applications of AI in the Aerospace and Aviation Industry. Please watch.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
And thanks to our actors, Kevin Lashuk and Hal, for that demonstration. But AI isn't just sci-fi anymore. So what does all this mean for the pharmaceutical industry? It means that AI and machine learning is about to revolutionize how we develop, deliver, and market drugs. And we're all thinking the same thoughts. Awesome, but what's that got to do with my job? It invariably means that some will thrive and some will be left behind. And that's where the PHOBO acronym comes from, fear of becoming obsolete. And with that, let's hear from our unfearful and far from obsolete experts. You're invited to pose questions to them throughout the next hour by using the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll also have a few polls thrown in throughout the morning to keep you engaged. You won't be bored. So with thanks to our session sponsors, that's Miriam Hara of 3H Communications, Pangaea Group, and Chronicle Companies, I'll pass you over to our moderator, Ben Parry of Pangaea Group. Open the pod door, please, Ben. Ben. Open the pod door, Ben.
Oh, sorry, Mitch. I think I left my keys in the other spaceship. So we'll see if we can get you out of there, but I don't think Mitch will be among us for until the end of the session here. So we'll get you help, Mitch. Don't worry. Don't worry. Anyways, folks, great to see everybody joining us today again for another NPC End-of-Summer Webinar with the topic Pharma Adapts to AI. We're going to talk about what's here and what's next. So I'm absolutely ecstatic to have a great panel here today. We're going to really have a diverse discussion, panel discussion, and a little bit of an intro from each of our panelists in terms of, a little bit about their journey and what AI is to them. So for today, we've got, I'm ecstatic to announce that we've got Fanny C, Head of AI and Emerging Technologies, or Emerging Technology External Collaboration, I should say, at Roche Global Informatics. We've also got Leandra Wells, Vice President and Business Unit Head of General Medicines at GSK. And we've got Peter Brenders, who's no stranger to our NPC podcasts, and he's the General Manager of BeiGene Canada. So welcome, everybody. Before we jump into doing some quick introductions and getting going with a little bit of who you are, your journey, and what AI is to you, we're going to pop up a couple audience questions here just to get you warmed up and get the audience thinking about our topic today. So if I could ask for the first audience poll to come up. So poll question number one for you: how closely have you been following general developments in AI, ChatGPT, etc., since the start of 2023? So give us your thoughts. Following daily developments a couple times a week, weekly? I read the occasional article. Let us know your thoughts and get a sense of how the audience is immersed in AI these days. So give that a moment. All right. Let's see the results. Interesting. All right, so we have a few people that are really spending time with this, following along, and others that are kind of in the middle, and then some that are trying to stay on top of this, which a lot of us all are. So and that's why we're having this webinar today, to continue on that same theme. So thanks for the feedback there. Let's pull up the second poll question. How concerned are you about the impact of AI in the life sciences community as it relates to your individual career? Are you worried sick? Have a few concerns, serious concerns? Have some mixed feelings? Very few concerns? Or you haven't considered it and don't care because Mitch is still locked up in the spaceship? Let us know your thoughts there. All right, let's see what we have. Interesting. Okay, so there seems to be some kind of mixed feelings, but some adoption and you know, a few points of clarity I think we all need as we go forward with this. So thanks for providing that feedback. I think that sets the stage nicely for our conversation today. And as we get into it, what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce each of our panelists one by one, and just ask them to talk a little bit about their journey relative to, you know, their career in AI, and then what AI means to them. So Fanny, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to see you, and you have a fascinating title and an interesting background. So maybe you could just share a little bit for the audience in terms of your background and some of your journey and what AI means to you at this stage.
Absolutely. I think for me, AI is just one of the tools that's out there from a technological standpoint. My personal mission and mandate is really about enabling health equity and ensuring better care and better access to care for people. I'm a radiation therapist by trade, and this is one of the only practices where technology itself delivers the medicine. Much of the research I had worked on was around developing new imaging techniques to ensure we were targeting tumors correctly with megavoltage photons through linear accelerators. After years of research and treating patients, I realized only a small percentage of technologies were actually making it to the clinic floor. It kind of infuriated me. It actually really infuriated me. So that is much of what you see in terms of my progression in my professional career. It was to try to resolve that. I remember being at a conference where we were talking about a really cool augmented reality technique that we were using for surgical planning, which helped to lower post-surgical complications in sarcoma patients by 30%, which is quite significant. Unfortunately, I was in the less coveted spot in a conference where I was the second last presenter. And as I was sharing my results, people were wheeling their carry-ons out of the window, like out of the doors, and headed to the airport. And for me, that was a very defining moment. There had to be a better way to get these advances in science to the clinic, where I was still using paper to say we were 15 minutes behind, or using clipboards and pencils to collect information from patients. This advanced my journey into commercialization, where I helped to bring academic inventions from the top universities and hospitals and research organizations in the GTA to the market through an organization called Mars Innovation. And this involved executing licensing deals, startup company creation and investment. I also had the pleasure of working with the deputy ministers of health across the provinces to scale digital solutions at a national level, where the technologies were very different. It was about addressing 90% of the population as opposed to 5% of the population, and really recognizing how digital could help scale to meet the needs of people who were underserved. That was a very large realization in that role. Throughout the experiences, I've realized it really takes an ecosystem of public and private partners to scale digital innovation. Whether it be AI or whether it not be AI, that is truly what is required. AI is just one of the tools of the digital landscape to help us realize the value of health data. The reason for the AI market focus at this time is because the rate of discovery within this field is rapid, and some would say unprecedented. The number of use cases where it might be applied has grown exponentially in a very short period of time. And it's partially due to the amazing amount of access that people have had with large language models. At Roche, we've developed an AI Center of Excellence called AI with Roche, or AIR, where we bring ecosystem partners together to solve big challenges in healthcare through open science. And this includes collaborations with the Pan-Canadian AI Institutes, Amy, Mila, and Vector. The challenges we have demonstrated this collaborative process in is in the area of capacity management during COVID and identifying and validating new targets for drug discovery, as well as diagnostic biomarkers to improve patient outcomes in the areas of neuroscience and rare condition. In some of these scenarios, we've accomplished this within a time span of 8 to 12 weeks. So it's amazing what the right community and the right technology can do in a very short period of time when we are aligned. So this is just the beginning, and we all have to collaborate to bring AI to full impact in realizing its promise in healthcare, which enables better care and better access for all people.
Love it, love it, love the passion, and you know, if I might say, it's a breath of fresh air.
You should be passionate about your job. If you're not, you're not in
Absolutely.
the right job.
Yeah, I love the acronym. That's why I thought I'd throw that in there. Thanks so much, Fanny, and glad to have you on the panel today. I think we're going to have some fun with that. I'm going to switch over to Leandra. Leandra, how are you doing? Great to see you.
I'm great. Thanks, Ben. Good to see you.
Great. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how, you know, AI is come to the fray for you, and how that's shaping some of where you're going.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, Fanny. That's a tough act to follow. I think my journey has been a lot less tech sophisticated, but I think what I'd just like to share is, so I'm Leandra Wells, as Ben mentioned earlier, business unit head for general medicine at GSK. Super proud of the work and the exciting investments that we've been making on the tech side in particular, and just feel like we're skimming the surface, unlike Fanny, me personally, that is, on my AI journey and all of that can basically help enable from a efficiency and from a technology standpoint. But I think, you know, from you know, a really, you know, brief background, I just love adopting new tech and leveraging it to really just get better and better, stronger insights so that we can have more impact with our patients and clinicians. And I think for me, you know, an example of that was when I was at Janssen, for example. I was, you know, piloting. I was the first one to really kind of take our digital detail aid and turn it into like a closed loop marketing initiative, for example. So I'm just an early adopter when it comes to tech. You know, I genuinely feel, Fanny, maybe you'll correct me, but our industry is quite a bit lagging on some of this, you know, work. Nonetheless, I try to get ahead wherever I can, and I'm super proud of the position that GSK has taken. You know, at this time last year, GSK rebranded, relaunched when we split off from our consumer division, and with that came new vision and a lot of redirection on how we're moving forward. And it was completely in line with a lot of this. And our main vision is really now uniting science, talent, and technology to move ahead of disease together. And that's something that I can definitely personally stand behind, because that is absolutely what is going to make the biggest impact for our patients. So with that, we also are looking at GSK as a whole, using more tech so that we can use data-driven insights, get more customer-centric, and to really move the needle. So all of this lines up with, you know, how my team and my in my business unit has really come along, and we are early adopters of a lot of the tech that we have access to. And we're just, you know, I genuinely feel we're skimming the surface, but we're really excited about the doors it can open and the impact that we can have. So that's my kind of foray into tech.
Yeah, brilliant. No, it's a lot about embracing it, right? In terms of understanding and breaking down some of those barriers. And I think we're in the right spot based off some of the poll question feedback we got today. So we're on the right track. Mr. Brenders, how are you keeping? Should we let Mitch out at the end? What are you thinking?
We always have to have time for Mitch.
For sure.
Let him have his run. And thanks for inviting me here. I clearly read the email wrong because I thought we were talking about Al, and Al was going to take our jobs on this one. And you know what? And I love Leandra. She's fantastic. She's probably the smartest person I've seen in the industry, and 100% she's taken my job. So I'm a little fear of obsolete. But on the AI, so let me just wing it on that one then. So. But I agree. I love Fanny's intro in terms of where technology can come in, and I'm with Leandra on this one too. It's a tool. I've been around long enough to see new tools come in that people are all scared of, and it's going to change everything, and it does. Makes things better. It depends on how we use the tool. What can we use it for? I know in our clin dev world, even within BeiGene, we're certainly using smarter tools to be able to take a look at our databases and do some machine learning we put into that one and help be able to find candidates a little bit quicker, help to be able to optimize our drug development process. But I think today in the panel discussion, I'll give you my 2 cents worth on Al and AI in terms of how I think we can and probably should be using this tool on a commercial operation. There's a lot of opportunity, and thanks to the Chronicle team too that did the pre-read. I like going through that one, and I particularly what jumped out right at the start there is Paul Hudson's comment in terms of, as an industry, we need to start using this a little bit more or be left behind. And he also talked about us getting out of the way of ourselves, or certain companies getting in the way to block this for us on that one. This stands to be a good tool that can make us work smarter as we try to help our doctors help our patients. And so I'm looking forward to the conversation on that.
Yeah, brilliant. Wonderful. Yeah, and I think we're right on the track of thinking about how that's going to impact, and really what is it going to mean to us as we make sense of all of it today. So before we jump into the panel discussion, we're going to just jump over to a second poll question, if we have another poll question to pull up. So which among the following pharma functions do you think will be most disrupted by the increasing use of AI? So check all that apply that you think. So HCP detailers, medical affairs specialists, marketers, executive management, medical research, compliance and legal affairs, logistics, or patient support. Let us know where you think the impact's going to land from your perspective. Give it a moment. All right, let's see what we have. Interested to see the results of this one. I think the AI is thinking. All right, interesting. So, all right, we've got quite a spread there, actually, of where things are going to impact, and medical research coming out a little bit in the lead there with marketers and logistics. So the executive side, and maybe we'll talk about this during our panel discussion. The executive side, what's AI going to do about strategy, and how can it formulate strategy? That might be an interesting discussion point for panel discussion. But before we get into that, we're going to just go to a spotlight, and then we'll come back and we'll open up the panel discussion. So stay tuned.
The following message flagrantly breaches Canadian Pharmaceutical Advertising Code. Viewer discretion is advised. Do you suffer from headaches due to poor planning? Are you losing sleep over so-so brand strategy and creative that's chronically uninspired? Try Brand-Aid from 3H Communications. 3H's market-driven, client-proven methodology is indicated for improving the quality and efficacy of pharmaceutical advertising initiatives. Serious side effects of 3H include razor-sharp strategy, cutting-edge creative, and superb execution that's consistently on time, on budget, and on promise. Reach for Brand-Aid from 3H Communications and exceed beyond. 3H may induce peace of mind associated with increased brand awareness, strategic prowess, unprecedented tactics, wildly successful campaigns, mind-blowing KPIs, and objectives beyond reached. 3H is associated with exceptional brand performance and with a good night's sleep. Email us today at contact@3h.ca.
The pharma industry is changing faster than ever before. Organizations are facing challenges in today's landscape that are putting their top line and bottom line at risk. With new customer engagement needs and technology evolving at the speed of light, the need for agility is more important than ever. With over 15 years of healthcare experience, Impress delivers a wide range of best-in-class services that are specifically tailored to ensure our partners can adapt and excel in a rapidly changing market. We are experts at exceeding sales objectives and providing our partners with a significant competitive advantage. Whether the need is agility and speed, maximizing top and bottom line, introducing new skill sets, or risk mitigation, Impress stands ready to help. We are Canada's next generation commercial partner, and we are ideally positioned to continue to help our partners thrive in the months and years to come. To learn more, visit www.impress.com.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. So what I'm going to do is ask my panelists to come to the fold. We'll get everybody back on camera here. Perfect. All right. Great to see you all. And thanks for joining the discussion again today. I think this is a fun topic. Widely debated, no doubt. It seems everywhere we turn these days, there's something new coming out. There's some new insights and a lot of hard questions being asked about what AI is going to mean. Today, we're talking obviously from a pharma perspective, and probably back into healthcare and in the conversation on the whole as well here. But let me kick it off with a question for you all: is like, what is AI, and how do we really define what this is? Because a lot of people are, understanding what's real and what's not, and how do we differentiate between, things, these words we hear about machine learning and deep learning versus what is artificial intelligence itself. So maybe Fanny, I can just ask you to start off there in terms of some of your thinking around that.
Sure. I mean, I think, if you get into the depths of literature and the depths of articles, I think at times people get really, really cerebral and they don't actually get to consensus on what artificial intelligence is. But I'm a very simple person with very simple thoughts. And so I break it down into something that I think is more tangible. And when I think about artificial intelligence, I just think about the simulation of human intelligence, right? And that looks at things like problem solving and perception, cognition. And what that ultimately allows us to do is to just make more informed decisions. Whether you're a patient, whether you're a clinician, policymaker, or somebody making a massive corporate decision, it just helps you bring an insight that will help you make the next best decision.
Brilliant. Love it. Yeah, Leandra, how do you kind of think in terms of the way you're shaping your thoughts around that definition and where things are working for you?
So, I really agree. I think it's a tool ultimately, and it will just continue to make us more efficient, better, drive better insights, help us triangulate so much information in so much more efficient ways. It'll help us make decisions, and in some cases, it might be powerful enough to make decisions that we want it to make. For me personally, the more I learn and the more I kind of get involved in what AI actually is, I mean, it touches us every single day. Like, I don't come to the office now anymore without turning on Waze. It's just a given. I spend way more time than I should watching reels on Instagram because it knows what is going to catch my attention and keep me engaged. So it's just something that is kind of helping us understand our customer base better. It's helping us be better. And it's hard to imagine, I love that poll because it's hard to imagine where AI wouldn't apply. It's going to be an engine that's going to drive a lot of what we do in a better way, whether it's through clinical trial work, helping our clinicians get better at finding the patients that are going to potentially be better candidates for clinical trials, diversify our, populations within our trials, all the way to, as Peter was alluding to, the commercial side, which is, helping us generate better, deeper insights from all of the data sources that we have. Right now, a lot of it is manual, although we're shifting over to using AI to help us understand a lot of our data, which, if you ask my team, is just incredibly powerful. And there's so many other applications that we're looking to explore, which is helping us create more effective content, for example, for some of our tools, materials. So it's really hard to imagine where we couldn't apply AI. And all the while understanding that with everything we do, we have to keep a governance lens and ensure that we're using it in the right way, because it is a super powerful tool. And ensuring that we're using it in the right way, making the right decisions, I think it's going to be, I don't think we can avoid it. And I think we just have to figure out how we embrace it and leverage it.
Yeah, hands down. And Peter, with this, it's so broad. Like, we're almost boiling the ocean here on capabilities in terms of where this applies, because as Fanny was talking about, and Leandra said, well, like, the applications are so vast, and it's hitting things fundamentally. Where are you positioning on this from a definition perspective?
Again, I'm as new as probably most of us are in terms of looking at AI and seeing how this could work. But I saw a good definition out there too. I mean, it was news to me that it's been around for decades before, but it's just evolving as it goes from the various stages, from AI to machine learning to deep learning to generative AI, et cetera, et cetera. But what I like though is the simple one is that it's a matter of starting with that database. As Leandra said, we got like tons of data out there. What does it turn into? And it's to take a look at that, and you see it's to sense it, to reason, and to act, and then adapt and go back again. And so to your point, I agree with you, Fanny, it's going to help us make decisions, but maybe it will be making decisions. Maybe it'll be given direction. Like, as you say, Leandra, we're looking at data, and we can take it from our patient support programs. We can take it from our DLD data. We can take it from many, many different sources as we think about it commercially. And historically, we've had some people that are better than others looking at the data, and they can see patterns, or they just know, hey, I need to go here. This center is important, or I need to go there. Well, now if we could start to take a look at it longitudinally, can it start to predict where it's going to happen next? And then if we take a look at, if we start to overlay, which we've always wanted to do, is overlay all the other stuff we do in terms of our different engagements, our different ways of engaging, marketing tools, materials, who's touching. Now we're starting to be able to track and see what's going on, like every other industry in the world that's out there. So I'm just now starting to get a sense of how this data might inform us. And I think, Leandra, you and I were chatting offline there, is like, it's being able to think about what do we do next to help a customer, as opposed to doing everyone the same. This customer wanted differently. And yet it's amazing. That's what we've been doing in the field anyway. Our RMs that know their customers know their customers. They know what is of interest to them. They know what their needs are. We hope so. And they know what's on that one. But if we could automate it, we could have a much broader reach, a much more effective reach to get out there to provide the support they need, because, hey, they need our products. They do need our products. Our tools, our products are the tools that help them do what they signed up to do, is to help the patients. That's what it really comes down to. But we can't help them if they don't know. And we can't help them if we can't get our message across to them, or so help them understand the value that we bring. That's different. And that's using sort of these tools I'm looking forward to. Like, again, just starting to look at it. I know as companies, we're all starting to look at it differently too. And there is too much, Bren. You're absolutely right. Boil the ocean. Oh my God, we can do it all. It's like, yeah, let's just knock off a couple of things that we can start to look at. And I think there's all the service providers that are on here too. There's like some fantastic ones out there. They're sitting on a bunch of data. How can you help us, the big behemoth of pharma that can't move, make it exciting? Like, yeah, okay, that's cool. We can do that. We can do. Leandra, how many times are we going to get that question? We can do that? Yeah, we can do that.
Brilliant. Actually, there's an interesting question from the audience. I think that's going right down this line. So the question's, given data-driven decisions seem to be important, but there seems to be a gap in understanding the metrics that matter. So, what are the metrics that are being prioritized to help with better decision making and all of this? Is that going to, now having data is going to force us into a different level of thinking and asking different questions? Throw it out there. Thoughts from the panel on that?
I'd love to comment on that. I saw that question come up and I thought it was like right on. We talk about making data-driven decisions as if it's part of our bread and butter, but a lot of the time it isn't. A lot of the times we're still relying on conventional metrics to make big decisions because that's what we have to compare it to. So a lot of analysis is looking at different metrics and combining different metrics to create, if you will, biomarkers for how the market is progressing or determining where there's unmet needs. But these metrics only become insights when we can associate an action to them. And it's not that easy. It's not that easy to look at. And I think people saw that when it came to COVID, where there was like this, I don't know, virus of dashboards, right? So tons of dashboards came out during COVID and just like, a lot of metrics on one solid monitor. And it's like, look, we have all the data. And it's like, okay, well, I'm still having to synthesize what's important, weight them appropriately, make the decision myself, and then move forward. And the hope is that, they'll be able to get to the next level of that, determine which specific metrics are important and for what specific decision. So I think that's part of the upskilling. And I know that's what we're going to be talking about as well. It's like getting used to these metrics, figuring out what's important, and then associating it to a specific decision, and then creating that as a standard practice. That whole change management piece there as well.
Yeah, if I can just add on, I totally agree. And I think from my commercial lens, when I look at metrics for how this can actually change things, it for me, it'll be time, and it'll be, how much faster can we actually create content, build, tools or whatever that drive value, because they're very customer specific, and that iterative feedback, ensuring that, we're not waiting. I mean, our cycle times are so long and so painful when we're creating new content that delivers, key messages or whatever it is. And if we can actually get more flexible, more nimble, and build more customizable content that's more iterative and dynamic, that is, to me, the ultimate. Is our industry ready to get to that phase? We have to bring a lot of our stakeholders on board before that happens. I feel like we're going to try to jump ahead, and there's a lot of things that are in our environment that are going to not necessarily be, keeping up to pace with us. So,
yeah.
And yet, just add on to that, add to Leandra's point. And yet we do this in our daily face-to-face calls, right? Yeah. Every sort of field person that's talking to the customer does that interaction. It's a question and answer, and they go down a path, and they'll go down a different path, and it's iterative, and it feeds it back, which is, to your point, Leandra, so disassociated with sort of our classic ad creative that is one boring piece of nothing that no one reads for everyone. And so, yeah, it's like there's no magic. Like, we've already figured out what the answers to the questions are, and we've already figured out what the questions need to be. The question is, how do we deploy those? And how do we help and execute on that one? If they ask this, then that. And what is our collective learning behind that one to figure out that very diverse decision tree? If we can start to automate a lot of that, how much more does that help our docs?
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of KPIs, like, speed to giving your customers a delightful experience, speed to, access, speed to creating dossiers for payers, for Health Canada, like, all of this is going to be more efficient if we can use these tools more effectively.
Yeah. And the questions coming in from the audience just down, similar lines. If I summarize it here, I mean, we've been doing a lot of this innovative work for many years now. Why the hype about AI now? What's the tipping point?
Chat GPT. Like, honestly, it's like, I remember, it was like last Christmas, sitting at dinner, everybody like who was like 3 years old to 90 was talking about it. And I'm like, how is this happening? Like, I wanted to leave work at home, and I feel like all of a sudden I'm talking about this subject that, wasn't at the dinner table, but now is at the dinner table. And it's like, can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, maybe a little bit of it at experimental level. But I mean, it was a brilliant business model to be able to provide open source tools with a friendly user interface that everybody had the ability to bring forward a new use case, right? So you have, it's just like this explosion, all these different use cases happening, and people talking about it in everyday conversation. And then all of a sudden it became tangible in their lives, right? It wasn't just an article that they read about or a paper. It was, I use it every day and this is how I use it. And now the business world is looking at collecting all of these use cases and thinking, well, look at my market opportunities, right? And I think the big question still is, and that's partially how the system gets involved, is how do you identify the use cases that breed the most important impacts and then scale them? Because we're not good at scaling. We're really good at experimenting, fragmentation all over the world. But if we decide on the one or two things that we want to bring forward, every organization needs to go through a massive overhaul in terms of their data infrastructure, implementation practices, best practices, system implementation, like regulatory reimbursement. So it's a whole thing.
Yeah, that's fair. And along those lines, so as we go forward here, are we asking the right questions? Do we need to ask questions differently?
Well,
put it into the group.
If I can just sort of build on Fanny, I thought you made a great point about Chat GPT and how broad it's out there. And kudos to Andrea and my team. Says, you're going to try this out. And it's like, so I tried it out. It's like, wow, it'll do a marketing plan for me. That's fantastic. So, but more to the point is they understand, it's like, this thing works in 95 languages. It consolidates and puts it together. And you can ask, hey, can you give me a summary of this paper? And so now think about that. It's like we start to run, we didn't have that before. So, all right, we'll go to the next global scientific meeting. We'll go to AAN, we'll go to ASH, we'll go to ASCO, we'll go ever. And it's like, all right, let's just upload these papers. Let's upload the 3,000 abstracts and have the tool give us some clarity. Like, what is it? How are our clinicians? You got to think from a medical point of view, it's going to be a great tool for them to get a summary. If that summary is right, at the end, there's still that risk. Is it the right summary or not? Like, I did the AI search, and can you give me some images of salmon swimming? And so, it can spit out certain things that maybe not, your classic salmon going upstream, salmon swimming, but maybe not exactly. I looked at that. It's like, yeah, you know what? That could be it. Might not be. But how does the tool get better? And I think over time it's going to get better. And you're going to think, how are we using this? And you think, we've started to talk about chatbots, and I'll call out to Conversation Health and what they're doing. But whereas we in an industry, when people are starting to ask stuff, a lot of things are standard answers to the questions. How do we start to use those to create some efficiencies, let alone what else we can do?
Yeah, indeed. And that transitions nicely to, and I'll put this one to you, Leandra. Am I being replaced? Is there a fear for me of becoming obsolete in this world? One of the and credit to Walter in the audience, he asked the question around, is AI an enterprise-wide concern for your C-suite teams, or is it sliced with just the CIO or the clinical development team or med affairs? Is this sitting in silos right now? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's a really difficult question. And I think, it's like any new technology. Yeah, it's going to displace certain things. I think what I'm working on kind of communicating is the importance of starting to upskill our team members and ensuring that people know how to incorporate technology into our day-to-day. Is it going to replace certain functions? Maybe, if it's, kind of functions that are manually pulling information together or manually doing certain things, or, but you're still often, maybe not always, but often going to need a human at the end of it to validate, to Peter's point. It's not always right. It doesn't always have that very customized, market specific mindset or perspective. So it might make us way more efficient. It might replace some of the more kind of day-to-day manual tasks. But I think with the right people in place and the right competencies, that I think from our organization standpoint, we are actually updating our competencies from a sales and marketing perspective, because tech savviness, the ability to actually be way more analytical, is really critical. And that's not just marketing, that's also from a sales perspective. You have to be able to embrace these technologies. And if you're a laggard, if you're not open to how to embrace some of this new tech, it's going to be a barrier to you. So, and a barrier to you advancing in this field. So it's not, I can't say it won't, but I think it'll just upskill our industry and everything we're doing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
I think it's a great point. Yeah, no, Leandra, I just want to build on Leandra's point too, in terms of you got to embrace it, or to your point, not even being left behind. It's just, you think about our CRM tools that we all have, right? We're putting in stuff, we're tracking data. So you got the long established rep out there. I don't need to use this. I never used that one. I know all my docs, and I put it all in there. It's like, yeah, okay. So they will be better suited in another job, because they're not going to be able to take advantage of the tools that can help them. And I get they know everything, but there's still going to be a little bit more that's out there. And so, and that's for all of us in adopting new tools. And it's got to embrace, like, gotta let go. And it's ironic too, because all our docs and everyone we're dealing with in the health system are used to what they've always done. And we're out there, hey, this is new. This is a better way to help your patients. And we need to change them. And so why aren't we the early adopters too? You would think we would be at the front edge of this one. And yet sometimes we're not. So I would say, to Walter's question there, is like, yeah, if you're not adopting it, yeah, you're at risk of obsolescence.
Can I just actually add something that's really important from commercialization of all these kind of technologies? We're finding we have to go back to basics. And Peter, you made such a good point. Like, data is what's going to drive the intelligence and the ability to be better and be more efficient. And now we are, making sure that basic hygiene in entering data effectively is absolutely paramount. We used to talk about, being accurate, being, timely on your call notes, for example. But now that this is actually feeding the intelligence and the machine that's turning insights back into meaningful opportunities for you, that hygiene is really critical. So,
and build on that though too, Leandra, because what's cool about AI now is the understanding and recognition. There are many ways to say something, right? It's not linear. And so you think about our old searches of past, you had to spell it right, you had to get it correct, you couldn't. But now it's like, I don't have to worry about spelling or how it's said. As long as we're close, the feedback loop will start to understand, oh, this is what they meant and how it feeds in. That's the really cool part of it is there. Like when I heard like 95 languages, and as much as we tried to standardize it, and like I'm typing in broken English at the best of times, like this is pretty cool on how these records are going to be.
Nice. Fanny, how's this coming together? Like what's the overarching advantage as someone who's growing up in this environment, in their journey, in their career, and how do we take advantage of AI?
I think it's all going to depend on how much effort we put into actually understanding the technology and spending the time to figure out where it can breed most impact. And I know in all of our jobs, we always talk about continuous learning, and being aware of all the different advances that happen in the world, and being able to ingest it and figure out how it actually affects your day-to-day. But I think AI brings a new way to look at that type of continuous learning, because the pace of technology advancement is so rapid that our existing training programs, I don't think, can keep up with that pace. And so I think if we spend more time on building new educational programs, being sure that we provide upskilling opportunities for our staff, lowering the barriers to these types of new learnings. It could be like, let's say, doing a sabbatical with an AI company, or it could be taking a course at, one of the universities. It could be, on the job training or a mentorship. Like, it has to be a little bit more, in my mind, a different iteration than the way that we train today. And then I think that there's going to be a push towards what AI can't do, right? So we also have to recognize that the science around AI, yes, it is progressing, but it's still not general AI. Like, we're not in the land of, like, the sci-fi movies just yet. So it's what is the evolution of a person's capabilities that keeps them competitive? And in my eyes, it's not being the average answer. So what is the rise now of, or evolution towards, the creative class? What can you bring from the synthesis of information that is given to you quite rapidly, and then formulating a vision, a strategy, a tactic that is a combination of a wealth of channels of synthesis? And how can you think differently compared to everyone else? So that's how I think it's shaping. It's the possibilities are unlimited. It's completely blue sky, but we really have to spend the time to understand it and grow it.
Yeah, that's well said. And Leandra, there's a comment from the audience here as well, or a question down that similar line. So we have to conceptualize all this. How do we collaborate across stakeholders? Legal compliance, PAB. Like, we had Patrick on the last session when we were talking about AI. How do we kind of get all on the same page with this?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely. So from an internal perspective, I mentioned it in my answer. If leadership isn't on board, it's going to be an uphill battle, because it is a change in mindset. It's a change in infrastructure. To Fanny's point, it's not like it's just one piece that you can plug into your day-to-day and go. Leadership has to be bought in. And not only that, I mean, it's also like leadership from global needs to be prepared to invest in the resources, because it can be an infrastructure shift. So from an internal perspective, hopefully most executives and leaders in the industry across the board understand and see the value in it. Maybe the budgets aren't necessarily there, because some things are going to be more costly than others. From an external perspective, yeah, I haven't figured out how to tackle that one yet, and open to any input. But yeah,
we're all on a journey there.
Yeah, PAB is. I don't know if anybody from PAB's on the line, but it's just not. It's not set up to enable what we're talking about in any shape or form. So.
Well, it's a lot of the marketplace is reshaping itself, to Fanny's point. So Peter, there's the comment here in the chat as well from the audience. Physicians are going digital. The comment is they have to include all patient histories digital. What's the next step there? It's it's still an idea, but does AI start to help them down the path in terms of managing challenges within the healthcare provision and the overall space?
Yeah, hugely so. Dr. Park, the president of the OMA, was on CP24 this week, maybe last week in the morning. He was talking about AI and talking about the projects there. And, the interviewers asked him, like, what's the role of the future? And they talked about a couple of pilots they were looking at in terms of looking at historical charts for diabetes patients and tracking down and being able to proactively identify patients most at risk. And so if you think about the digital systems on there, as you can start to look at it, what's the history of a patient that leads to what is a profile of a patient? And the beautiful thing about being able to pick from different languages, different terms, because everyone writes it differently, medicine is still very much a human intervention that's out there. And so much that happens in medicine is nonlinear. It's not this, then that. It's this, then maybe this, and then on Tuesday that. And then things jump around, but having a tool to help with that one. And as you know, any doc could really, if she had the time to go through it all to look at it, yeah, she could see where it's going, but she doesn't. She's got 2,000 patients in her practice, and she's just trying to manage it through. This is going to be a wonderful tool for that. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of wonderful tools that we can use. And to your point, Leandra, in terms of, totally agree, is like companies need to get on side, but I'm also the school of don't bet the farm. Like, let's do some little bets. Let's test it out. Like, what is this idea here? And I think as we start to use it more, to your point, Leandra, yeah, we're already using it in ways and on our Netflix and on everything else that's going there. That's the tools are there. They're already part of our life. But how do we start to get them in? Is just make our life a little bit easier. It's like, okay, if this one, here's the history we've seen in this particular case, and now it suggests that this is the next action. Or maybe it automatically does an action. It's like this, we've seen it out there. All right, this is an automatic push for a mailer. This is an automatic push. We don't need to think about it. We just know what comes out. It's kind of like my shopping history and the automatic pushes I get for all kinds of stuff. I swear I didn't look that up, but someone knows. So
yeah, that's fair. And Fanny, I want to throw this as we start to come towards the end of the webinar here. I want to throw this question at you. Do I need my own AI, or do I go out there and just leverage what's out there, chat GPTs of the world, and like how is this working?
So I'm very much a person who is I always have a supportive push towards being your own advocate in healthcare and being able to take all the information you have about yourself as well as your family and being a partner alongside your healthcare team in ensuring that things are being monitored appropriately, treatments are being given appropriately. I am a little bit of an annoying person when I'm the patient myself. I'm like, can I see that? Can I read that? But I feel like, you can leverage some of the tools out there to help you become an agent of your own health, as well as an agent for your family and your friends. And I think that's an important thing to do. And I also think, like, as you look at the way that AI is starting to really engage with the market, more of those tools are becoming user-friendly. And you see that anybody, people who can code or not code, can actually build their own AI very quickly because it's being brought down to a user experience, right? I mean, we know that ChatGPT can even generate code, and that's like basic code that you could potentially piece together and create your own. I think it's a matter of making sure that you know what your endpoint is, what impact do you want to make, and then to do sort of an inventory of what exists, and then where are the gaps, and do I need to build something? And that's also from a corporate strategy perspective. But I don't know, I've just seen so many holes in the healthcare system as of lately, personally and also professionally, and just like, I think we need to take it into our own hands and protect our families and our friends.
Indeed, and take the advantage to learn more about it. It's wonderful. Well, I think we might have found the key to unlock Mitch. Oh, we did. Welcome back, Mitch. Sorry about that, my friends.
Marvelous to see you again. Speaking as one person wearing a sports coat to another one, I'm a little ticked off that you kept me locked out, Ben, but what comes around goes around.
Well, watch out.
Yeah. One caveat I think that might have been overlooked during your excellent discussion this morning, was that ChatGPT, Bard, Bing, in my experience, have a tendency to just make things up, invent citations, and basically just lie to you. An algorithm that could probably be addressed at some point, but for now, it's the misinformation is a big factor. I think, as Peter was saying about how this affects physicians, it shows that the real demand is for critical thinking skills on the part of humans, and the training institutions and the employers are certainly going to have to deal with that gap. Anyway, thank you, faculty and Ben. Outstanding job, thought-provoking discussion, and particular kudos to Al. So I will do the final housekeeping tasks that ChatGPT is too arrogant to perform. Remember, if you have any questions that didn't get answered, send them to health@chronicle.org, and we'll continue our discussion through both the NPC podcast with Jim Shea, Mark McElwain, and me, and the NPC Health Biz Weekly e-newsletter that comes out every week. Both are free. You can get them at the NPC website at pharmacongress.info. Listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or pretty much anywhere. Brought to you with pride by our friends at Impress. And I'll invite you now to come back and see us in a couple of months at the 17th Annual National Pharma Congress, Wednesday, November 22nd, back again at the Mississauga Convention Center. As a delegate to this webinar, you can attend the fall NPC at a special friends and family discount that will save you $300. So check out pharmacongress.info for details. Save the date, watch for details. We appreciate your comments and suggestions for the event. They're always welcome. Stay in touch with us on social media. So in closing, thanks to Ben, to Joe, who's I think getting his knee scoped this morning. Good luck with that. And Pangaea Consultants. Special thanks to our gang at Chronicle Companies. That's Alan, Amy, Jeremy, John Evans, Joyce, Kylie, and Sydney. And special thanks to our partners for today's session, known as the finest companies in the life sciences. That's 3H Communications, Chronicle Companies, Imprez Inc., and the Pangaea Group. And that's it. Thanks again for spending some of your morning with us. See you in November.